Alright, moving on to our DVD release of this week, which is Roland Emmerich's Anonymous.
We all know William Shakespeare, the most famous author of all time. But what if I told you Shakespeare never wrote a single word?
Wikipedia describes Anonymous as a political thriller and a pseudo-historical drama. Pseudo it most certainly is. Roland Emmerich, the director of Independence Day and 2012, so he's certainly the authority on this sort of thing, is on record as believing that the plays and sonnets of William Shakespeare were not written by the Baird, as we have been led to believe. Rather, he claims, they are the works of another, rather unlikely candidate. Anonymous begins with a theatrical introduction that sounds strangely paranoid by stage legend Derek Jacobi, who himself is, in real life, a doubter of the true identity of Shakespeare. The film itself focuses on Edward de Vere, played by Rhys Ifans, who's one of the most reliable character actors around, the Earl of Oxford, who, as the film would have it, demonstrates an ingenuity for poetry and prose from a very young age. As he grows older, his talents develop further and he writes dozens of manuscripts, but is discouraged from and forced to stop his writing, as it is seen to be undignified for a nobleman, and it's perceived as bringing dishonour to the royal lineage.
My God, the Earl of Oxford does not write plays.
He enlists the help of a young playwright named Ben Jonson, played by Sebastian Armesto, to take credit for his work so that he is able to continue writing and exposing his work while preserving his anonymity.
10,000 cells, all listening to the writings of one man, the ideas of one man. That's power, Robert!
Since when did words ever win a kingdom, Edward?
Leave that to me.
His plans are derailed, though, when a young, erratic, and foolhardy actor named William Shakespeare, played very well by Ralph Spall, blindsides both Jonson and de Vere by claiming credit for Henry V after a performance that rivets a dome theatre crowd. Anonymous caused a minor stir within British academia as it brings mainstream attention to the conspiracy theory that Edward de Vere, Earl of Oxford, was the true author of the most important body of work in the English language. Proponents, or Oxfordians as they are known, claim that William Shakespeare didn't have the education nor the sensibility to create the works to which his name is attributed, while Stratfordians, supporters of Shakespeare, so named in reference to the small town in which he was born, consider the alternative theory to be a fringe belief based on flimsy and often non-existent evidence. Controversy aside, is Anonymous any good? It certainly has a flair for the visual, and its reconstruction of the sights, sounds, and personalities of early 17th century London is pretty enjoyable. Its plot has all the twists, turns, and personal conflict of the greatest of the Baird's work, although perhaps without the same eloquence or sense for a turn of phrase. Its performances are pretty effective, and once disbelief is suspended, it's quite a fun ride that deeply appreciates and loves the work regardless of who the true author is. Anonymous reminded me obliquely of Amadeus, that great Milos Forman film on the rivalry between Antonio Salieri and Wolfgang Mozart. That movie is deeply powerful and very revealing about its protagonists. Anonymous is its bubblegummy cousin, perhaps because its source material is a load of what is most likely old toss, and is being paraded as if it were established fact. Be that as it may, I liked Anonymous, if only because it is a fun venture into an interesting what-if territory. Tim, you haven't seen this one, have you?
I haven't seen this one, no.
What do you make of the Stratfordian versus Oxfordian argument? Because it's quite a vitriolic argument. I mean, when I was in Britain, I was watching, BBC had panels on this in wake of the movie being released, because it sort of raised the awareness, the consciousness of this, so-called argument. What do you make of it?
It is quite vitriolic, but it's also generally considered to be rubbish by most of the academics who I would trust on the matter.
Exactly.
Which isn't to say they may not be wrong, but I think you sort of hit on the point that there's a love of the work no matter who wrote it. And, whilst it's maybe somewhat interesting or important to, everyone loves a good conspiracy theory, but I don't think this is a very good one.
Well, and that's the thing, and I think this movie, it's fun, it's a really fun period piece, so I'd recommend that you see it, take it with a grain of salt. But, as you're watching it, I mean, me watching it knowing that Roland Emmerich basically is putting this film out there as, this is what he believes as a director, as a person. He really thoroughly believes that William Shakespeare is not William Shakespeare, it was someone else. But you just look at this film, and it doesn't add up. The fact that the Earl of Oxford for no reason other than mild embarrassment, decided to go through this massively elaborate conspiracy involving several people, all of whom are like emotionally unhinged. And that comes into play when it comes to keeping the secret for 250 years. I mean, why hasn't it come out before this? And why isn't there all sorts of evidence for it? I mean, there's more evidence for the existence of William Shakespeare as the true author than there is alternatively.
That's the thing. I think there'd be some more solid and credible evidence to promote this theory. I think it's disappointing it's not more of an examination of the sides of the argument rather than essentially the rantings of a conspiracy theorist, if that's how it does play out. But that said, I think it's probably difficult to make that film a fictional film and have it a period piece. I don't really know how you would do that.
Yeah. But having said that, good fun movie. Take it with a grain of salt. Don't believe Roland Emmerich. After all, he's the guy that made 2012. Enough said.